Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. And on this week's episode, you may notice that we are not having our face cams turned on this week. We are actually both in person. Azul is at my house right now. We're currently filming extra content for the Uncommon Energy channel. And the cameras are all over the place in my office, so we're just not dealing with the face cams right now. We're doing the good old images instead. Hope that you guys can bear with us as we do get into our topics this week, where we will be talking about EUIC registration, which has begun as of this episode going out. I believe both waves are done now. We will also have an update about the TCG Live update that we talked about last week, kind of some more information, some things that we've seen since that update went live. We will talk about the results from the Perth Regional Championships and Bogota special event that happened over the weekend. We will, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And we're going to wrap up this week's episode by talking about the upcoming Toronto Regional Championships this weekend. Talk about the meta. We'll talk about which decks we like. We'll make some predictions. And then we're going to wrap things up over on our bonus episode this week. As always, a bonus episode weekly exclusive to our YouTube members and also our Spotify subscribers. My name is Chip Ritchie, and I'm joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good, Chip. First off, you're getting a little bit too reckless with your chair. You're about to bump some tripods, so be careful. You're getting close.
You guys should see the ridiculous setup that we have in this room. Maybe we should tweet a picture of it or something, or post it in the community, because
yeah, we could.
It's a little perilous to walk around in here, but the angles look good. You know, we got the angles looking like they need to for the actual videos. But it's a lot to set up, and it would be a lot to tear down for the podcast. So, hence the no face cam this week.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here for. I felt like this is the only second day here. I guess last week. Didn't stream too much. I did restream day 2 of Bogota. I didn't restream day 1 because I didn't know there was a stream for it or where it was. I was pretty sure there was one, but I couldn't figure it out until day 1 was upon us, and then I just didn't end up streaming that day. But was able to restream day 2 of Bogota. It would be nice if there was and someone would have to go out of their way in the community to do this, or maybe I could try and help create a space for people to just post that information. That's what we need, because a lot of people know, some people will come to my chat and be like, "Hey Azul, there's this event happening in Singapore literally in 2 hours." It's like, "Oh, cool. That would have been good to know about, a couple days ago." And no blame on the people, obviously, but I should either go out of my way to make something, or if someone wants to make something, just a place, maybe a Discord server, I don't know, where everyone can post when
I feel like
events
it'll
are
just
happening.
be the same thing. People go into that Discord server and post about it a day before it happens, and it's the exact same situation.
Yeah, but that'd still be even if you had 24-hour notice, knowing it would come up, because I'm sure a lot of people know about this stuff way ahead. Someone has to know about it way ahead of time. So if there was kind of a central location, and I think if that got out there that this place existed and people could go post there and whatnot, then we could see more people doing that sooner ahead of time. Because it'd definitely be nice. I'm sure the community at large would like to know that. As far as a comparison would be anyone who watches esports or a certain esport regularly, and if they use Liquipedia. There is a Pokemon Liquipedia, but the information isn't kept up with very.
I think it still gets
recent.
updated.
It does get updated, but it's not immediate, I don't think.
Yeah.
Liquipedia is a site owned by Team Liquid. I don't think it was owned by Team Liquid initially. There was a community thing, but then Team Liquid eventually became the owners of it. But they have a bunch of pages for all the esports.
Yeah, they got the results from Sao Paulo in there right now. You can show.
Yeah, pretty cool site. If anyone's not familiar with Liquipedia in general, really, really dope. It's like a Wikipedia for esports, or in this case, competitions, card game competitions. They might have one for Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic, I'm actually not sure, but they have it for Pokemon, and I think most of that's because of the video game. I think the video game was the big in. I think Team Liquid maybe even had a video game player on their roster at some point.
I don't remember that for sure, but it wouldn't be that surprising, to be honest.
Wolfie just got picked up actually by Gentlemates, I think, which is a.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
I don't remember. The owner is one of the owners. I think is Gotaga, who's he's a Call of Duty YouTuber. I think he's a YouTuber. Used to be a competitive Call of Duty player. That's pretty cool to see Wolfie get picked up by them. They have a Call of Duty team in the league this season. That's also something I did this week. Was I watched a lot of Call of Duty because the season started this week. But yeah, that was my week. Been a good week. And man, I gotta come up with. If anyone has any ideas for a solution for that, though, actually leave it in the comment section. If it's something I can like help put together, I would honestly just like pay someone to like make a place for people to then put the information there, potentially as well. So it'd be nice to just have a central location where we know when streams of tournaments are happening, because we have like the information from like Limitless, like we know when the tournaments are happening most of the time. But the streams for the tournaments is kind of the missing information, it feels like, majority of the time. But how about you, Chip? How was your week?
Yeah, week's been pretty good. You've been here most of it. I guess that does put a little bit of a damper on the week overall. Just kidding, just kidding. No, it's been good. Yeah, didn't have too much going on this weekend. I'm going to be casting Toronto this coming weekend. Well, I'm not casting. I'm doing like the hosting gig where I'm going to like do the lounge and the interviews and all that type of stuff. So yeah, looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun. Appreciate Pokemon as always bringing me out to do those things. And yeah, very much looking forward to it. Toronto's a fun tournament. I do have to say I have a little bit of a bone to pick with whoever decided it would be a good idea to put the Toronto Regional Championships in December. You know, I think it was like always in March last year, or maybe it was
I think
in
it's
the
usually
fall.
pretty cold.
Yeah, but I don't think there's like, December, dude, it's going to be so cold. There's definitely going to be snow on the ground, right?
Probably, yeah. It's definitely been cold up when we've gone up there before. Even sometimes Vancouver is still pretty chilly. I don't want. Is Vancouver actually on the schedule this year? I think it is, right? I don't know when Vancouver's happening though.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's happening.
I believe it is. I always got to be really careful because, like, not everything is announced for some reason. Yeah, Vancouver on the website. Sure enough, March 7th to 9th. Probably will still be pretty chilly, but it's always kind of terrible weather in Vancouver. There's no avoiding it when you go to the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, do we have 9 announced then, or is it? Are we still only have 8? It's 9
We
now,
have
right?
8, I believe.
Nope.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Puerto Rico special event doesn't count as one of the regionals.
So we're still missing one.
There's still one mystery regional championship.
What was the rumored? I forget what the rumored city was.
I have no comments.
But I think so far all of the leaks have been correct so far. I just don't remember what the 9th one was at this point. Because Atlanta just got announced, right? Or they don't even get announced. They just kind of get like shadow dropped.
It is kind of like a shadow drop.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone hasn't seen, there is a regional championships in Atlanta.
Which will be the first time, I think.
Yeah, it'll be the first regionals that's been in Georgia since that Athens regionals, I think, back in 2017. Those were the good old days when your boy was able to make top cut at regional championships. Those days didn't last very long. In fact, they only lasted that weekend at the Athens regional championships. But, you know, yeah, going back to Georgia, this should be fun.
Yeah, I won't be at Toronto. I will be restreaming it though.
Gosh,
I
something
get
just
back
happened
home.
that made us spike audio super hard.
Something did?
Yeah, did you brush your mic or something?
No, I
It
don't
was
think
like,
so.
yeah, I don't know what it sounded like to anyone listening, so I apologize, but we're good. Keep rolling.
Yeah, I won't be cast, or I won't be cast. I definitely won't be casting. I won't be at Toronto, but I'll be restreaming it. I guess I will be or party watch casting it on my stream over the weekend. I get back Friday, so my first stream back will be on Saturday with Toronto. And those are actually like pretty decent hours because the stream doesn't start until like what, 10 or 11? I feel like.
Yeah, it should be something like that.
The schedule should be
we can
up.
go to the website, pokemon.com/broadcasts. You can see all that information about what time the upcoming streams will happen. So upcoming event, Toronto Regional Championships, December 13th. Looks like approximate start time, Pacific time, 9 a.m. for the stream.
Oh, that's super good for me. What the heck?
Broken, right?
So the games won't start till like 9:30 ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's pretty dope for me, to be honest. I get to stay on my schedule for that one.
Day 2 stream starts at 7:45 a.m. though.
What? What? Why the big switch up?
Well, maybe that's what they're doing.
Oh, maybe they're gonna show every round.
I
Oh, wait,
don't
no,
think so.
Pacific. Oh.
It's Pacific time.
Yeah, no. So we're still only gonna catch 2 rounds of day 2, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is. I think like missing the first couple rounds of day 1. Obviously, like covering everything would be better.
Yeah.
But the bigger bummer is missing day 2, man. I wish we would just broadcast all of day 2, especially now that like day 2 doesn't go quite as long because there's less rounds during the day,
Yeah.
right? It's only 4 or
Expected
5
to
Swiss
be less
rounds,
rounds.
depending on number of people in the tournament. Or no, it's always 4 is the most day 2 could be, right? Because it's 8 or 9 day one. So day
No,
one
you can get to 5, but you need like over 4,000 players.
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah. So it will probably, and well, I don't know, EUIC,
NAIC, yeah, like
who knows?
if we have the space, those could break those numbers.
But I wish like we could just do like 4 rounds of Swiss plus top 8, top 4 finals. That's 3. And well, the problem is that we might have. I guess the issue is that we might have top 16 or even top 32 potentially.
Yeah, but I feel like the tournament's not running any longer, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. It definitely would be nice to see all the day 2 rounds. I think it's fine to skip a couple day 1 rounds, to be honest. But they need to get, and this has to be something moving forward eventually. There needs to be a second station. The downtime is just a lot. I think it would really increase the, I don't know, value of the stream just to like remove some of that downtime. Have a second station, either tune in for game 3 live if game 3 is still happening on stage 2, or just go rewatch game 3 if the main stage match ends fast. If main stage match goes to overtime, that's fine. You just go to the next round, right? But having some backup, some more content to watch.
And it's something they did have. I remember watching the 2016 national championships from home, and they had
like 3 tables. They had like 3 matches off to the side. It was a weird setup. There was like the main stage, and then. But that's back when like they rotated the main stage between all the games, I think. But the side stage for the TCG, they had like 3 side, if I remember correctly, they had 3 side tables. So there was like potentially 4 tables of Pokemon TCG playing that were being recorded at the same time.
I think they did it at Worlds that year too. I want to say they had some sort of setup.
Yeah. So, and they don't have to go to that extreme as well. It was just nice. I think there needs to be a little bit more to fill. And the thing is, like, I don't even think it would be like that much more. In fact, I think my guess, and you can speak to this as a caster, I feel like the casters would like that more instead of just trying to fill dead air.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
you'd rather cast a third, one game of a game 3 from that different match.
More gameplay related things is just always going to be better for sure.
Yeah. Because that's the only argument I could see is like, all right, the casters maybe need a break, but I feel like the.
Well, yeah, I mean, as long as we are, like, it is good to get breaks and get in and out of there and stuff, but...
But you guys are already sometimes sitting there for 15 minutes doing nothing.
Right. I would rather talk about a game that is happening than sit there and vamp and talk about basically nothing for however much time. Yeah, so this is a clip, a screen grab, I guess, from Worlds in 2016, and you can see they've got...
a bunch of setups.
The feature match, and then there's 2 other matches being recorded. I mean, you see Gustavo playing right here. And yeah, the other 2 matches happening. So there is at least the precedent that they've done it before. I don't really know. I don't know. Why did they stop doing it? Why don't they do it anymore? This is before I was a part of the broadcast team, so I got no clue. And also, I don't make any of these decisions. I show up and talk, and that's about it. So that's all I got for you guys.
All right. Well, I guess the first thing to hit on right here is we just mentioned EUIC, and it could see numbers over 4,000, which would be cool. It is up there right now, actually. The registration did go live past the pre-registration for the people with the early reserved seating, which now extends out to top 32, which is really cool to see going into the season. We mentioned it. We've talked about it before.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the people who, in the previous rating period, which is just the amount of time between ICs. The major tournaments, the ICs, so the people who had the top 32 amount of points in each region got priority registration for the International Championship. So that is cool to see. The most dedicated people getting a little bit of something extra. And it's not like a massive amount of people. It's not like they're giving 1,000 people priority registration. They're giving, maybe a couple hundred.
That's not that much.
Like less than 200 total across the world.
Yeah, so registration went live. And we already, I guess, heard about this at the last week, but not before we last talked on the podcast here. But currently there's 2,869 players registered for EUIC for Wave 1. There's only 2 waves, I believe, right?
Gonna be a big one.
So we'll be over 3,000. Not in the Masters division. That's all divisions combined. We could see over 4,000, 1,000.
It just depends on how big Wave 2 is gonna be.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna know because we're not going to be up until 4 a.m. our time to figure that out.
Yeah, 1,200 players more. That's only half of the first wave. I feel like a third of the full registration being in Wave 2. What if it's split equally, though? That would be insane.
It definitely isn't. I don't think they've ever done a split equally wave release of registration. But yeah, registration has gone through as expected. I think the first open wave one did sell out pretty much instantly.
Yep.
I think that's just kind of to be expected. EUIC the last couple of seasons has just been like that. And,
It's basically on par with NAIC at this point.
We will see with Wave 2 how true that does remain, right? Maybe we get a little closer. Maybe it doesn't sell out immediately. Maybe it sells out in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. But it could be a little bit more reasonable. But there's definitely been a big talking point around EUIC specifically, and that is because this kind of came out whenever people were registering a little early. EUIC is expensive. It is 70 British pounds, which at current conversion rates converts to about $95 USD.
Yeah, so there's a couple things to think about with this. And I don't think the immediate thing that I think people jump to is to always be like, well, yeah, I feel like they're jumping to like the negative. I mean, it's more money, right? How much more is it than last year? Is it like $30 more?
Yeah, I was going to pull up, there's another tweet. Yeah, Benji Fam here tweeted out the EUIC entry fees over the last few years. Frankfurt, 45 euros. And then 2023 London, 60 pounds or 72 euros.
Oh.
24 London is 70 pounds. 24 London was 70 pounds. 25 London, 75 pounds. So it's a £5 increase.
Okay, so it's not that big of an increase. It is an increase. But I think we just got to wait and see what the event is like. Honestly, I thought it was more. I thought we were going from like 60 to 75 or something like that. But I don't remember how much it was last year. Yeah, we kind of have to wait and see what the event is like. Like, where is this? Is this just kind of cost of
doing business is going up?
Cost of doing business year to year? Or is this actually going to lead to... I mean, one thing that people complain about a lot with recent events is just like how enjoyable they feel to go to. I know Nico Alabas has been like a big... very outspoken about that himself. He's even like made statements before. He's like, I just want them to charge more or to like limit it to less players because these events have gotten so much more unenjoyable over the last couple seasons because there's a lot more people being crammed into not comparable like size of venues, which is true. Stuff like there's always complaints about stuff like bathrooms and stuff as well, event to event. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe they're getting a lot bigger. This is at the Excel Center, right? We haven't changed.
It is at the Excel
Center. Yeah,
so
maybe they got like a lot more. They definitely got more room because this is going to be more players than there was last year by a decent amount. It looks like. So maybe they got like a lot more room with this extra money. That would be cool to see. But honestly, £5 isn't that big of an increase, so it might just be year-over-year cost of business type deal.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at this year, 2025 season, 90 euros effectively at the conversion rate, right? Frankfurt just a few years ago, 45, a 2 times increase in 3 years. Is that the cost of business going up? I mean, it's pretty steep. I mean, but to be fair, the jump from Frankfurt to London was pretty big. 45 euros effectively to 72.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things Benji just kind of points out here at the end. He says, we've had London 3 times in a row now. Maybe we can have EUIC on mainland EU next year at Play Pokemon. And I wonder if that's part of it. Just how expensive is it to do it in London compared to going somewhere like Frankfurt?
Yeah, Frankfurt probably is cheaper. But it's definitely cheaper to fly to London than like... If you're like traveling out of Europe, it's definitely cheaper to go to London than probably anywhere else in Europe, it feels like. I feel like London is like... My flights to London usually cost less than most of my flights to regionals in America. Like... when I was on the East Coast or even on the West, where I'm on the West Coast now, my flights to London like aren't that expensive. So I feel like London, for accessibility reasons, it seems like a good location. I haven't looked up that many flights to other parts of Europe, but like my flight to Stockholm is like the only real example I have. Outside of that, that was more expensive. But we had to go like through Iceland. I think we had to lay over in Iceland, so that makes probably why that's a little bit more expensive. So I guess we'll see. If they run it back with London again. It does seem like it is a good location internationally. I guess for Europe in general, I don't know, like the European players. I hear mixed things from the European players.
I'm just kind of down to go to more places.
I am as well, but I'm also down to just put it in a place that's just like best for more players. That makes it work, you know what I'm saying? And then like, if I'm really trying to go somewhere else in Europe, I can like make a little longer vacation out of it if I want to when I go to EUIC. But whatever's best for the community, I think is probably what we should look for as far as location-wise goes. But yeah, that's a talking point. It wasn't as bad as I thought, and we'll just have to see how the event goes. It got more expensive. Will the event be better? But even if it's not a huge increase.
I would be surprised if there's like some massive thing that is different now between this year's EUIC and last year's that like is where that money is going to. I don't know. I mean, who knows? What could there possibly be, right? Like, what would you want that extra money to go to?
A lot more space would be the number one thing, I guess.
And
But
that is true. The Excel Center is massive.
it's
So,
big.
maybe they have rented out more space. And, I mean, that hall is, like, super long.
Yeah, well, they almost for sure rented out more space because it's probably going to be a bigger event, but on top of, like, the extra people we'll have.
Yeah.
And we can also, like, compare this to NAIC this year as well, because NAIC is in the same venue back-to-back years, so we can see the cost between NAIC last year and this year, and take another look at it and see if
Yeah,
it just...
how much does it change?
Yeah.
All right, and then another thing we talked about last week was the newest update to PTCG Live. Of course, this update did add the addition of the ELO ranked system. Once you got to Arceus League, it also removed coins from the game as a currency option. And it seems like some people, I don't know, Azul, you've played the new update. Have you gotten to Arceus League yet?
No, not quite yet. It is pretty quick to get there, but yeah, I haven't made my way there quite
I
yet.
feel like you could do like a grind session and get there. Something that might be kind of cool to do in the future, you and like another streamer or something, is to do a race to Arceus League.
Yeah.
Something like that. You both start at the same time and see in one stream who gets there. Because you could, it's probably what, like 35, 40 games, something like that?
Yeah, someone gave me an idea for something like that where, and this is something I actually might try and do because it was a good idea, it was like host an event for a bunch of streamers and then put up a prize pool and see who can, like, do like, on the ELO reset time, you have to stream all your games.
Yeah.
The first person to get to 2.4K or 2K, however long it takes to climb to like a reasonable number, like wins the prize pool.
That would probably,
And
that's a pretty high ELO number. You would,
I don't know what number it would have to be, but
yeah.
maybe 2K, something like that.
Yeah.
And just see who can grind there the fastest.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see something like that. It would be cool if they had some sort of setup like that. Like if there was a event going on, like how VG does the global challenges, like if you had some sort of similar incentive where it's like there's going to be a lot of people queuing at the same time, because it might be hard to do something like that based on what we've seen so far from people who have gotten to Arceus League within the first few days.
Yeah.
Mies here, who's a very good player, said, I hit this rank and I have not been able to find a single game on the ladder. Does it only pair you against other Arceus ranked players? And the answer is yes. You will only get paired against Arceus ranked players. And so just naturally, if you are one of the first people to get there, you are you're not going to find any games.
Yeah, and I that does seem to be intentional, and it doesn't seem like a terrible thing. But then you do have these situations where if you're one of the first people, I think I even brought this up last week, didn't I? I was like, is this actually like, because we read it and that's what it said. I was like, does this mean like if you're the first person to Arceus, you just literally can't play against anyone?
Yeah.
And that is apparently the truth. And even if someone else gets to Arceus, they still have to be playing the game once they get to I feel like a lot of people will get to Arceus and they'll probably be like, all right, I got to Arceus for the day. I'm going to take a break, right?
Yeah.
So if you're someone in Arceus, once you get to Arceus, you kind of have to wait until a lot more people filter in to the rank. Maybe too much. And like a problem with this wouldn't be a big problem. I think this is how Hearthstone currently works. I mentioned this last week. I'm actually not 100% sure, but I think you only play against other Legend players in Hearthstone. But Legend's player pool, or Hearthstone's player pool, is like 10x, maybe 20x PTCG Lives. So for every one player that gets to Legend or Arceus in Pokemon, there's 20 getting to Legend in Hearthstone. So it's quite a big difference, right?
And I could also see it being like, this is the first time that they've done it. Maybe next reset, there'll be a lot more people grinding for it really quick, right?
Yeah, it's also people will be closer to it because they did like a full reset where everyone went down to like Pikachu League. So to get to Arceus takes longer than getting reset to like Master Ball League or whatever. But I think it would probably be best if they made it so Arceus ranked players can play against non-Arceus ranked players for maybe the first 2 days or something.
At least like Master Ball tier players.
Yeah, you can play against maybe that.
But then how does that affect your ELO? Is the thing, right?
That is true. Maybe it'd have to be like a.
Maybe it's like it cues you into a game and it's like this game will not affect your ELO ranking.
Maybe,
like
or just like a +10, -10 against Master Ball ranked players. Like that could be fine as well, to be honest.
Yeah, but the thing is +10. Depending on how close your ELO is to another person, it could be a big ELO swing, right? Especially when you get higher up in the.
Well, yeah, but at a certain point, you'll only be playing against other Arceus players.
Sure.
I don't think it would be too bad. They could come up with like some small number where it's not super far off the mark.
Yeah, definitely.
But hopefully that doesn't remain a consistent problem moving forward. Like you said, hopefully more people get the Arceus faster in future seasons, or they do allow you to play against like Master Ball players or something. Or like you said, just like don't let them, like the ELO, if you play against a Master Ball ranked player, your ELO just doesn't change. Something like that, I guess, would also be fine.
So those are the couple quick little updates from the more recent things. We also do have a couple of tournament results to look at. So there were 2 major events over the weekend. There was the Perth Regional Championships taking place down under in Australia. And then we also did have the Bogota special event in South America. So, yeah, which one of these do you want to take a look at first?
Let me start with Bogota, I think.
Yeah, so let's take a look at Bogota. We actually, so this one, it wasn't on Limitless, the results. So we have good old PTCG Pokestats. Sorry, it's so weird. This is always maybe so Pokestats before Limitless existed. Pokestats was like one of the main places people found a lot of information about the game. Then Limitless has kind of become the de facto place to go. But it has always annoyed me that their website is not Pokestats.com. It is PTCGstats.com. And so it always trips me up whenever I'm trying to talk about where I'm looking at it. But yeah, there's nothing on Limitless for this event. We are looking over at Pokestats here, and it does look like the event was won by Francisco with the Regidrago V-Star.
I think I understand why as well. Pokestats currently is for sale for $6,300.
The website, the domain.
Yeah, the domain is for sale. $6,300.
Tate doesn't have it like that, bro.
I guess not. Honestly, if Tate wanted to put together a community fund, I would contribute.
How much?
I mean, I do the same thing you do, where I go to type in Pokestats and it doesn't take me to Pokestats.
Yeah.
If it gets put together, I'll throw a K at it.
What?
For Pokestats.com.
It probably isn't that expensive. You probably could reach out to this person and be like offering, hey, like they just put this like a ridiculous number.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's how I think a lot of these things work.
What happens if we click buy now? I don't know. It says I can check out for $6,395.
It also says you can call a number to talk to someone and be like, yo, this is ridiculous.
Man, I'm always down to like anything that's better for the betterment of the community. I'm down to get behind. So if
listen, I love Pokestats. It's great. You know, it's been a good resource over the years. We do have Limitless as well. Let's not forget.
Yeah, but they don't have Bogota standings right now. So
this is true. You know, you're not wrong.
Sometimes we gotta go outside the Limitless. Listen, Limitless got a lot on it. Not gonna lie, and there's always more being added, but they don't have Bogota standings, so we'll head over to. And I think probably the main reason for that is because a lot of the special events down in Latin America don't use RK9.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy plug over to Limitless to get all the information. A little bit more, I assume, manual inputting from Robin that he maybe doesn't want to do, which would be fine for sure, or hasn't gotten around to. But we do have it here on Pokestats, and a lot of Drago and a lot of Roaring Moon at the top.
Yeah, Drago, Roaring Moon, and we got a Dragapult Dusknoir build in 5th place. We got good old Raging Bolt in 6th, Charizard at 7th, and Lugia at 8th, making it into Top Cut. We don't know what the ASIM cut. Actually, it looks like it was a clean cut because you can see Eduardo here went 7-2-2, whereas Andre, who is 9th, went 6-2-2. So Andre not bubbling out. It was probably a clean cut here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. And I can pull it up.
Andre actually tweeted that they lost in asymmetrical.
Oh yeah, there was one person in asymmetrical cut. Yeah.
So Andres here ends up getting 9th.
Yeah, Andres was playing. Oh, does it have it on Pokestat actually? Yeah, it does. The Dragon Ball Iron Thorns. But it was an interesting build. It had the Giraffe Rig or whatever in there. It had some Clef keys. Farigiraf. I didn't think it had four thorns to begin with. Because there was 2 Clef keys in there, and literally he kept opening Clef keys. So I was like, there's no way there's 4 thorns in this deck. We never see them. But there is 4 thorns in there. And it does have the Toadskrull. There's the Farigiraf. Cut down on the Dragapult line, which is interesting. Pricing 1 Dreepy when you play 4 feels bad. I can't imagine pricing a Dreepy when you play 3, but I do see that Heavy Ball. Is that Heavy Ball or Nest Ball? Oh, it's a Nest Ball.
It's a Nest Ball, yeah.
Yeah, so that feels kind of bad, to be honest. Or it feels bad when you prize 1. So I can't imagine pricing 3 and pricing a Dreepy, to be honest.
Yeah, I've not played with this deck at all, so I don't have that much input to give about it. I know you've played it quite a bit. You actually had a good tournament run this week in an online event, right, with this deck. And it's looking like it's a real contender. We'll talk about it when it comes to Toronto here shortly, but I mean, this is like a crazy deck, and it is kind of looking like it's here to stay for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely the best way to play Dragon Ball. I don't even think it's like remotely close. The other 2 builds are just so much more fragile in terms of their how much tempo they have in the format. The big thing is you have the Iron Thorns to slow down your opponent, and this build from
Andres
has the Clef keys as well. So you have like more things you could start that slow them down, right? Which is kind of cool. So yeah, the Clef keys are definitely interesting. And I actually don't hate them on top of the Thorns, because that really is the point of the deck, is to open something that slows down your opponent. And then the Toadskrull fits in there super well. The Farigiraf is interesting to me. because, I mean, the main matchup for that has to be the Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt is such a mid deck right now. And also Thorns is super good at shutting it down as well, is the thing. So I feel like the Furgraf feels like a little overkill.
We do have a few other decks that we can look at from this tournament here. There was a Miraidon, there's a Snorlax, but the only other top cut deck that we have is Owen Dalgard, traveling from the United States, who was able to get top 4. Congrats to Owen. A great finish. He's a first-year master, so I've been looking forward to see how his year 1 journey goes in the Masters division. I always like seeing how people perform in their first year, aging up into each of their respective divisions. And it was with Reggie Drago. It looks like Tord 60. I don't know if this is the same 60 that Tord just played to Stuttgart. It must be. I guess it looks like it. It does have all the dragon guys in it, which was kind of the signature thing from Tord's deck.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does have the whole squad. A couple people copy the exact 60. I think even over in Perth, we'll take a look at those decks in a second. I think the big surprise from this tournament, and maybe it's not like a huge shock, is the Roaring Moons. 2 Roaring Moon in top 4, 1 getting second, and 1 getting top 4.
Don't have lists to look at, unfortunately.
I will say the second place list we did see on stream, it was built to beat Cloth for sure. There was to give you an idea, it was Turbo Mooney X. There's 2 Squawkabilly, but there's also 3 or 4 Ancient Capsule.
Okay.
So it's a turbo-ish moon that's built to beat Cloth is what it looked like. I did end up losing in the finals to Francisco. Close matches overall, if I remember correctly. Did go to game 3. But yeah, it was an interesting build. And I have to imagine the reason for the Ancient Capsules, looking back on it now, is definitely was it wanted to have an okay Cloth matchup. Because it would have 290 HP, which is... well, I guess more so just not getting poisoned is the bigger deal.
Yeah, getting out of range of Terapagos KOing you and not getting poisoned. Yeah, for sure. It is kind of weird, though, because to KO Terapagos, you do still have to Frenzied Gouging, put yourself down to 30 HP. So, but it's they don't get to take the initiative, I guess, right? You get to kind of control when that happens.
And it still had a lot of guts effects, catchers, boss. It played Secret Box. Did not have Prime. Did play double boss and catchers.
It's so crazy to me that all these aggressive decks, like Miraidon and stuff, are switching to Secret Box. Prime Catcher is just so insane in those decks.
Well, Secret Box and Miraidon, I think, is a little bit different because Area Zero is so much value for the deck.
True.
In fact, I think it's the deck that you gets the most value out of its extra bench spaces, more so than any deck, is Miraidon. The Terapagos deck is a close second, I would say. Terapagos Cloth, and obviously Terapagos Noctowl and stuff. But Terapagos Noctowl just kind of needs Area Zero for the extra damage, more so than being getting another Huto down is huge here. But being able to have Mew and Pheasantipity and Latios in play and Miraidon is actually huge. Consistently having all access to all those abilities before your stadium gets bumped. So definitely an interesting moon build. And one of the unfortunate things with these the special events when they don't use Arcanine, we'll never know if we'll get the lists for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty much just if the players tweet their list.
Yeah, basically. So who knows? We'll maybe see the full 60 at some point. There was, like you mentioned, Dragapult Dusknoir top cut, so Dragapult showing up outside of just the Thorns build, and then Charizard, a Raging Bolt, and then Lugia there. 8th place, which is the deck that me and you both talked about last tournament or last podcast. It seemed good going into this weekend, and I think we could transition over to Perth, where there was a Lugia on the winning end, and to no surprise, it was Rahul, ended up 11th outside of Asymmetrical Cut. Asymmetrical Cut did go down to 10th place there.
Yeah.
Rahul was on the winning end with the Lugia going into it, and the top cut here, honestly, 2 weeks ago, this would be a crazy top cut. I feel 3 weeks ago.
Right.
But now Cloth has kind of been established.
This is the new normal.
Yeah.
Cloth, Iron Thorns, Dragapult Iron Thorns, why not? And of course, we do see the Reggie Drago and Gardevoir still hanging in there.
Yeah, and another thing that honestly, it is still a little crazy that there's this many of them. But seeing the Japanese players go over to the Australian regionals is not a surprise.
Yeah.
3 of them in the top 3, 4 in top 8. I don't know how many are in top 32.
3 more, it looks like.
Yeah, so
7.
6.
Oh, yeah, and then one at 38. There was definitely quite a few in day 2.
Yeah, and if we go to, can look at it on PokeStats here, I think there was 24 players from...
PokeData.
23. 23 players from Japan, 4 of them in top 8, 3 of them in the top 3 is honestly just insane.
Yeah.
Now, there's 2 questions to ask here. is Australia struggling, or is Japan that good for sure? Because I think Japan,
Bro.
kind of just based on Japan's results this year in general, they already took a major over in Europe. They've now taken a major in Australia. And if you just, the conversion rate to how many of these Japanese players are actually at these events to already winning 2 events, and then, like, this is crazy. The results here for Japan are crazy.
Yeah.
Like, is Japan potentially maybe actually just better than everyone else, but they just don't go to as many events? Is that like a possibility? It definitely is, right?
I mean, I don't think so. I think it's literally just like, I mean, there are good players that live all over the world, and the ones that travel farther away to events from different regions, so like, are the ones who have put the time
Yeah.
into the game.
Yeah, of course. Hey, the players that are coming to these events are definitely going to be some of the best Japanese players.
Like, it's not
in the
like
world.
if, Brent Tonneson and then his whole testing crew show up and they all get like top 32 in Dortmund.
That would be
you're not
shocked.
you're
Okay, true.
You're not just all of a sudden like, oh, dude, the Australians are just the best test. I mean, to be honest, I think that testing group might be the best testing group in the world right now. That might not be the best example for the point I'm trying to make, but you know what I mean? It's not. It's like that's a testament to that group. It's not a testament to the country itself, right?
Okay,
is
fair.
what I'm trying to say.
To an extent as well, but I still feel like these results are pretty crazy from Japan. But you do have, yeah, like you are saying, the best players are leaving. And one of the best players last season, Kato, is the one who ended up taking it all down with Guardvor. And it's not even slow, fast Guardvor. It's just slow Guardvor.
Yeah.
Even slower. It's got Tatsugiri instead of like concealed cards in the Greninja.
No secret box, no rare candies. We're taking it chill. There's 3 darkness energy in here with the 2 monkey dories. Yeah, this is really cool to see from Kaito because Kaito, like you said, super successful season last year. Did not have his invite to Worlds. He played a
which is
lot
crazy.
in our circuit, but did not get his invite through the Japanese circuit. But now, because he got this win at Perth, he will be able to compete at the World Championship. So I'm excited to see what he's got to bring whenever it comes to the biggest stage.
Yeah, honestly, probably the best player in the world without a Worlds invite was Kaito last year, for sure. I don't think it was close.
Yeah,
right?
it's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be him and not even close. And the other person is probably some other Japanese player who...
Yeah, some other Japanese player.
Yeah, didn't get there. Like Shintaro didn't get his
Shintaro
invite
didn't,
last year. Yeah.
So really cool to see him get the dub. So he'll be at the World Championships this year.
It's like kind of... It's interesting with the Japan stuff, right? A little bit more value is placed on the World Championship invite compared to the rest of the world, right? Because it's more difficult, harder to attain. But also at the same time, it's like players like Kaito and Shintaro should be at Worlds, right?
Yeah.
It feels bad that they're not there. Like, they're obviously skilled enough, good enough. So it's like, I think there could be some happy medium between what the old system was and then what Japan's system has been, right? And maybe that is the system we've got now with the top 125. We'll kind of see how it plays out through the end of the year. But yeah, I don't know.
I think, and I think Jake Gearhart has highlighted this on Twitter a little bit, just kind of the differences between how hard it is to get a Worlds invite in Japan compared to the rest of the world. And that's what it really is like the big. If the World Championships were just 16 players, then only 2 players from Japan going or something would be like, okay, it's like whatever, right? But when you kind of compare it to what the rest of the world has to do to play at the World Championships compared to what Japan has to do, it does feel like they are slighted in a way. And then I think you can also just like look at their tournament structure and be like, well, this is just so much less conducive, is that the word I want to use here, to the best players actually getting their Worlds invite, right?
Yeah.
It's like, these are some of the best players in the world in Japan. And there's always going to be people who like immediately go to the statements of, well, they could have, why don't they just do better? It's like, you can only do that to a point. And the biggest thing is like the comparison between what you have to do in Japan versus what you have to do literally, well, not anywhere else. I guess any of the countries in Asia, to be honest. What they have to do over in Asia to get their Worlds invite compared to anyone who plays in the TPCI circuit is just like not comparable.
Right.
And all these players who are doing less are getting to Worlds, and they're definitely not as good as some of these players from Japan. So unless like the rest of the worlds, unless the rest of the people who are getting to Worlds through the TPCI system, if it doesn't feel harder for them or as hard, then it does feel kind of bad for Japan. I think it's fair to actually, and it's fair to like look at it that way and be like, it should be just easier for the Japanese players to get to Worlds, or it should be harder for the rest of everyone else to get to Worlds. And I feel like our system is just the superior system, to be honest, overall as well, though. Because I feel like with how much RNG there is in the Pokemon TCG, like I feel like our system is pretty good for a balance of getting the best players to Worlds, but not leaving it up to just kind of more things out of their reach, like we do kind of see, like with the best of one in these major tournaments in Japan. Because you see Kaito, I don't even know if he has a Champions League top 32, and he probably plays in as many as he possibly can. I don't know where he stands in Champions Leagues, but you see him come to these TPCI events, and he's playing in a best-of-3 format, and he's consistently like one of the most successful players of one of the most successful players of last season, and already this season, one of the most successful players in the TPCI circuit.
Yeah, this is not like a super long Limitless page, but I mean, it's just the quality. Like, these are the tournaments that he went to last year. He went to 4 tournaments, and he went 7th, 8th, 10th, 3rd.
Yep, that's
$22,000 in earnings from 4 tournaments. That's nuts.
Yeah, and then even this year, he's only been to 2 tournaments, as far as I'm aware. I think there is one in there where he didn't have a great finish.
Which is obviously going to happen, and that could have happened last year as well, right?
And then he also, was he one of the players who played over in China recently?
I think so, yeah.
I think he made day 2 there.
Yeah.
And that's like a terrible format in best of 1.
Unchecked broken Lugia.
But then even over here, this season, already 20 top 32 is kind of whatever, but then a first place to go alongside it, like, pretty good consistency. I'm sure we'll see him at more tournaments coming up. I actually was curious if some of these Japanese players are kind of making not just the trek over to Australia, but maybe going to Toronto as well this upcoming weekend. You know, they're already leaving Japan.
I mean, Australia's not that far from Japan.
Yeah, it is a ways away. It is a ways away for sure. But I am curious, because there was already some Japanese players who were at, like, Sacramento, and obviously California is closer to Japan than Toronto, but I'm curious to see if any Japanese players show up to Toronto. A lot of European players usually go to Toronto, so I think we'll see quite a few European players there for sure. But yeah, and in the finals, like I said, it's all Japan finals, all Japanese finals. It was Cloth, though, was the matchup that Kato took down, which is definitely a favorable matchup for Gardevoir. And this is Robin's exact 60 from whatever tournament Robin got.
Stuttgart.
Yeah, Stuttgart.
Has that Genesect in there, which is a super cool card. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this deck a lot last week. There's really nothing super different about it now compared to last week. Yeah, I mean, this is just, we'll talk about it a little bit more when we talk about Toronto, but this deck is here to stay. It's not going anywhere anytime soon for the rest of the format, for sure.
Yeah, and the more I've thought about it, and I initially started out by playing with this deck, by playing with Robin's build. I didn't use the Genesect much, but I don't think I put enough emphasis on it. I think the Genesect is really, really good. Taking away stuff like Prime Catcher and Unfair Stamp specifically, or a Trolley up against a Trolley matchup is like super
Yeah, if you just
powerful.
go first against another Trolley deck and can get your Genesect in the tool,
yeah,
like, dude, the setup difference is just insane. And you have so much reach on turn 1 with this deck, with the Carmine, the Squawkabilly, the Minion, like, you can get through the deck.
Yeah, the Guru to find the Forest Seal Stone, to help you find your Trolley, stuff like that. So, yeah. Yeah, I think the deck's definitely here to stay. I don't think it's like a ridiculously broken deck or anything like that. Definitely a powerful deck. And it's cool to see still this constant innovation. This is what I always hate, is when I see so many people complain about formats and how they're like played out, and like, you have to play the same 3 decks, Charizard, Regidrago, and then someone comes out with this Cloth deck. It's like, no, you don't. You're just not trying. If you're not going to try, why are you going to complain?
Well, and it makes me wonder, too, like, the last year of the game, we haven't seen anything close to this level of innovation, I would say,
really?
From a top deck. I don't think so. What do you think?
You might be not too far off. This is like a pretty big out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me wonder, like you said, people just aren't trying hard enough.
Well,
like, is there been something in past formats that people just didn't try hard enough? We didn't quite get to, like, I think like, if you show this to a lot of the players who are in, top cuts regularly, they would probably look at this and be like, oh, I mean, kind of crazy looking, sure, and then brush it off.
Yeah. I mean,
it needs like someone to actually do well with it, which we saw in Sacramento, right? A couple players got day 2 with the deck, had a solid finish with it, and now it's kind of taken off from there. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I did ask this question last podcast, and I'm curious still. I don't have an answer for it, of course. I don't know if I'll ever get one, but I wonder how many players in Europe were actually already playing this deck before Sacramento happened. Like, I wonder if Robin, because like Robin, like, this difference from Robin's list with the Genesect is like pretty big, and if Robin kind of took the list from Sacramento, I don't know how he would come to Genesect in like a week. That was like a big inclusion, but maybe he did through testing. But I wonder if Robin was already playing this deck ahead of time.
Sometimes cards like this, like, just stick in the back of people's minds. Like, you yourself talked about Genesect, right? About how it's like a card, like, this like happens where people, like, it's like they read a card, it's like, oh, there's like potential for this, but it's just not yet.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like whenever a new deck comes out and there's a new opportunity to get a different card inclusion, it's like, oh, maybe is this the deck that I can finally get the Genesect tech in there?
Yeah.
That could be what was happening, honestly. I feel like that does happen a lot when it comes to these, like,
Yeah, and I mean,
more brew builds.
yeah, I mean, Tropico's Cough isn't like a deck that would have been able to be played for a while because it did get activated by Trolley, right? I feel like that is the activator. So
this was a really cool one. They got top 4 in Perth. Also, someone else got 48th or 47th, sorry, with the same list. They've got a Hisuian Zorg V in this deck. So the idea here is in games you go second, you can get more reach with the Petrarunt, right? You can use the Zorg, run into the Petrarunt, get some damage with the 30 for free, plus the Sneasler, plus the Petrarunt, all the poison things going on. Really, really cool.
yeah, you get the Mochi on there, so you can hit for 210, I think, total. You can also run to the Fluttermane as well. You could like poison the Zork and hit for like 70.
Yeah.
And that could KO a Charmander plus run to Fluttermane or something like that. I wonder actually if there's like room for. No, I guess Klefki doesn't work because you can't retreat your Klefki.
With Latias,
yeah, you shove your Latias. I guess you could like play a rescue board.
Nah.
And we see this build only plays one switch card actually. It has a Regidrago in there as well, which is kind of cool. I tried out the Regidrago for like because it does have free retreat now that you have a Latias in play.
Yep.
Which is definitely interesting. So we still see people innovating on this build. There's honestly like so much room in the deck. Some people don't even play Electrode, so they're kind of giving up fully the Charizard matchup, which probably not a great matchup to give up right now, but it does give you more space for some more cute stuff. The Trode is, I feel like I see that more like in online tournaments, the lack of Trode. I feel like in like these major tournaments, you gotta be rocking the Trode.
The other top 4 deck from Reiji here, we do have just Quad Thorns. Pretty normal for what we've seen with Quad Thorns. No canceling clone, so just taking the L to the Mimikyu if it happens to be something you play up against. But
dude, finally, dude, I hate when I see canceling clone. It's like, why are you teching for Mimikyu, man? Just put it down, make your deck a little bit more consistent. Like, come on.
Take the L and move on.
Yeah, definitely. Has the I've seen this in a lot of Thorns lists recently, where they play the one Techno Radar, one Nest Ball. So you can still find that for Thorns, but you don't have to discard a card to get it. I feel like you always have stuff to do. Surprisingly, my Techno Radar turn 1 sounds miserable if I go to Thorn or Arven for it. But yeah, I've been seeing a lot of lists do that recently. But yeah, I like this. Just straightforward. The Eries in here are interesting. I guess that gives you a chain. I don't know, Lost Box, maybe Charizard. You have TM Devo, so against Charizard, I guess you can go after the resources a little bit more aggressively. Yeah. And just a couple catcher, just 2. So probably just trying to filling out the list to get to 60 more so than anything. Being like, all right, a little bit of extra more aggressive Gust isn't bad alongside the Prime.
We do see speaking of the Iron Thorns, the Thorns Dragapult deck making another run here. The same 60 that Mads used the weekend previous in Stuttgart gets another run here from Yuhao.
Yeah, so this deck, I've been playing a lot of it recently personally. Like Chip mentioned I played it in an online tournament the end of last week, and the deck just feels really good. Like Dragapult's really good, but it's a little slow compared to a lot of the other decks in the format. But Thorns gives you time, like a lot of time. And in some cases, just like auto wins because your opponent can't set up. And then you're able to transition into your Dragapult after using Thorns in the early game, take over the game from there. You got the Toadscroll in this build as well, which is really good against the Drago. It's good against Pokestop decks, Night Stretcher decks. Everything's got Night Stretcher.
Yeah.
So I think the deck is
I wonder if Toadscroll could make a place in some other deck right now and just be good.
Possibly. What if you play? I mean,
Charizard, right? That's where Toadscroll's been played before. But then it's hard to play. Like you're already playing Charizard and Pidgeot and Dusknoir. Like how many evolution lines can you cram into one deck? You know.
Well, we could just cut the Dusknoir. Dusknoir feels like super fine in Charizard. I don't know. The combo plays are really, really cool, but I feel like giving up on it isn't the worst thing. I've talked about this a lot over the last couple of formats. Dusknoir feels, in my opinion, is just like fine in Charizard. Not necessary for the deck to actually win games. I had one more thing. Dragapult, just really good. And there's always probably going to be a best way to play Dragapult. I think there's no reason to actually play the other builds of Dragapult. Like if you're going to play Dragapult and you want to maximize your win percentage, you should just be playing Thorns Dragapult.
It's pretty wild times we're living in.
Yeah.
We do see a few Regidragos here. Peter Lowe, Zinzi, and Natalie Miller. How deep was it?
To ninth.
To ninth, okay.
Oh, no, to 10th. I'm sorry.
It was to 10th? Okay, so Jeremy in here as well with the top cut of Regidrago. And then Haruki here with the Gardevoir to round out top cuts.
What was that? What did that Gardevoir look like? I think that one it was concealed card, but it was still pretty slow. It was still slow.
Yeah,
body, right?
There's no rare candy, no box.
Yeah.
But did have the Greninja difference from the...
one rare candy right there.
Oh, sorry, yeah, my bad.
So still pretty slow. It's not like trying to aggressively get there, but it does have the one rare candy.
Yeah. Has the option at least. And then, yeah, you mentioned Rahul. We talked about Lugia last week, and Rahul did run it back. A pretty similar list to what he had played in the past. He does have the Water Ogerpon in here, the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. And, yeah, like you said, he did get to a win and in. He did, unfortunately, on that win and in, hit the Iron Thorns player.
Yeah.
So Reggie here just kind of took him out, and yeah, that's a big feels bad.
Yeah, definitely. The only switch up being the water pond. I'm not sure what was cut. Maybe the fourth research, maybe an energy, but yeah, running it back with a very similar 60.
Yeah, it looks like it's an energy because there's only 16 energy in here.
I think he only had 16
Only
in the
one
past.
missed. Oh, has he only had 16?
Yeah, because he has the rat. Oh, no vessel. It's just a basic lightning with no vessel.
We're gonna find it,
Eventually. Maybe. We might lose before then, though. Yeah, the water pond in there. Water pond is it comes in and out. It's good and sometimes it's bad. I don't know how good it is right now, but it seems fine. But yeah, there was still 4 Drago in cut. When we talk about cut, we should definitely always consider asymmetrical cut as part of that for sure.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's still pretty good. And I think we both predicted Drago to be pretty good. We expected it to show up pretty well at Perth overall. And yeah, so no surprise there. It didn't win, but definitely not a bad showing from Drago. Despite its weaker performance the week before.
Yes, let's recap our predictions from last week, the things that we thought would happen this weekend of tournaments. First one was how many out-of-region players will make cut. Azul said 6, I said 5, and this was across both tournaments. And the Perth Regionals almost took care of it for you. There was 4 Japanese players in that event, and then when we go down to Bogota, it looks like it was just the one. Is that right? Just Owen making it into cut. So it was 5 actually total.
No, you're close. Jeremy's from Singapore, so we do have 6.
But is that not the closest region? Is Singapore a separate region from Oceania?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I thought Singapore was included in Oceania.
I don't think so. I asked my chat and they said no.
Okay.
I asked they said it's just New Zealand and Australia now, I think.
Okay.
It's Oceania. Yeah, every other Asian country that was part of Oceania before is now no longer part of Oceania, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find the rating zones real quick.
That might be a tough one.
Oceania includes Oceania. Wow, thank you. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure every Asian country has been removed from the Oceania region now.
I think that actually does ring a bell. Okay.
Yeah. So what's 6?
And then the next one was will Golden go top cut either event? It's kind of in the hot deck. You said it would make cut at both, Azul. I said it would make cut at one of the two, and we were both wrong. There's no Golden go in cut at either of these tournaments, despite how successful it had been previously and how strong it seemed like it was in the meta as well.
Yeah, I don't think anything really changed a whole ton. Especially if you look at the Bogota top half of the meta, it looked like. I think Golden goes pretty good into most of that. I guess the one thing that maybe switched up is just more Thorns, and Thorns is pretty bad for Golden Go. Both the Dragapult deck and just Quad Thorns are both pretty good against Golden Go. So that's maybe the big switch up here. We're seeing more Thorns. The Cloth matchup as well, I guess, is unfavorable. I don't think it's terrible though, but maybe those 2 things combined made it tough for the Golden Go to compete this weekend because it had been showing out the last couple weekends of major tournaments. So I'm surprised to see it's even missing from top 16. Is there even one in top 32?
Yeah, where are the Dingus? There's a Dingus at 39th in Australia.
Yeah.
And we don't have all the results from Bogota, so we don't know.
Who knows where the Dinguses are? Maybe they're hard to come by in Australia. They just didn't get imported or something.
The last prediction was, will the finals be a mirror match? Of course, the last few tournaments we've seen quite a few mirror matches. I think it's 3 events in a row, right?
Yeah.
We had Reggie Drago mirror in LAIC. We had the mirror match in
Maridon.
The Maridon mirror match in Sacramento. And then we had the Zard last weekend in Stuttgart. And then this weekend, you predicted there to be 1, and it would be Reggie Drago in Perth. I said no, which was correct. Yeah. But to be fair, probably the safer choice.
Yeah, I did have decent odds. There was 4 Drago in cut of Perth.
True.
They just couldn't put it. What are we doing? Come on.
They were just losing. They were busy losing to Cloth.
I guess, yeah. Cloth and Guardy, they're getting cleaned up.
Thorns,
the Thorns are tough.
Thorns can be tough.
Thorns is definitely tough.
All right. Well, those were our predictions, and Azul, I think we can move on to guess that flavor text. But of course, before we do, we got to take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy Podcast. Of course, we love Dragon Shield for their sleeves. We use them at all the events that we go to, and I use them on most of my retro decks, and totally sleeved up my cube. They've got tons of other great products. Azul uses the Dragon Shield deck box at all of his tournaments. They make playmats, they make binders, all sorts of accessories. And if you want to check out Dragon Shield, you can do that over dragonshield.com and use our code UEPOD to get yourself 5% off. That's UEPOD. Get yourself 5% off. Azul, this week we've been using some Dragon Shields as well for the content we've been filming. You've been liking the Dragon Shields you've been rocking with?
Yeah, re-sleeved our Evolution Series decks. Ran it on for, I don't know, it was it's like 6 episodes. 7?
Yeah, 6 episodes of the same sleeves.
Yeah, had to give them a little bit of a re-sleeve though. They're getting need to freshen them up, but they've been holding up for sure.
The real issue with that is because we're having to unsleeve cards constantly and move cards in and out of sleeves.
That is true. Yeah.
That's like that just adds to the sleeve wear that you might see. I mean, they're still. I will take those sleeves that we took out of the Evolution Series decks, and I will put them onto retro decks, so they'll still have a chance to get shuffled up every once in a while. Still.
Yeah, huge shout out to Dragon Shield as always. Check them out. Link in the description. And flavor text this week, Chip. It's your turn to pick a card and read me the flavor text, and then I have to try and guess which Pokemon that belongs to. The 3 lifelines, if I choose to use any of them, are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and then read an attack name. It is your turn to pick a card, right?
Yes, and I do have a card picked. And I'll read it to you if you are ready.
I'm ready, Chip.
You're not peeking over my shoulder, are you?
I'm not.
Okay. All right. This Pokemon, it secretly marks potential targets with a scent. By following the scent, it stalks its targets and then steals from them when they least expect it.
Well, I mean, this sounds like Thievul or Nickit, but I guess I could use... I mean, it sounds like it's probably Nickit, because they are like the thief Pokemon, I'm pretty sure. So let's go with what stage the card is.
This Pokemon is a stage 1.
Could still definitely be Thievul. Give me the flavor text one more time.
Sure. It secretly marks potential targets with a scent. By following the scent, it stalks targets and steals from them when they least expect it.
Yeah, I'm just going to lock in Thievul.
Locking in the Thievul?
Yes.
All right, well, before I tell you if you're right or wrong, we're going to read the rest of the lifelines for the people playing along at home. The set the card is from Astral Radiance.
As far as I know, that could be a Thievul.
And then the attack name is Sharp Fang.
As far as I know, that could be a Thievul.
And you are correct, Azul. It is indeed the Thievul. Dang, what a spike. I low-key, as I was reading it, I tried to pick something pretty quick as we were like setting up to record just on my phone. I couldn't do it on my computer like I normally do because you're sitting right behind me and you would see. I was like trying to pick something quick, and then as I was reading it during the episode, I was kind of like, yo, have we done this one before?
I don't think we have. I think we've done a Thievul.
No, it doesn't look like we've done a Thievul.
Oh, we haven't at all?
No, we've never done a Thievul.
Maybe you've read it before.
How did you just lock into the Thievul like that, dude?
Well, no, you know what it is? I've guessed Thievul before, or Thievul's been brought up before for sure.
No, it would be in the spreadsheet.
No,
but
like,
spreadsheet.
No, like when you have like read a flavor text, I've been like, ooh, that kind of sounds like it could be Thievul.
Okay.
But I've never like locked in the Thievul.
I'm just surprised you even know this is a Pokemon that exists.
Dude, I know about Thievul, bro.
Low-key, I'm a little sus of you. You're sitting kind of behind me. You could have definitely seen on my phone, so...
Bro, I stay guessing Thievul.
I wouldn't have put it past you, to be honest. Well, that's a pretty big swing there, Azul, because I was leading 32-26. Now, with 3 points there, it'll be 32-29.
I could pass you in 2 weeks, Chip. All right, hang on.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's not get carried away.
I hope to tie you. How about in 2 weeks? How about that? It's a good thing I used because it sounds more like a basic flavor text than a stage 1. So it's a good thing I used my lifeline.
Yeah,
at least.
if I had peeked over your shoulder, I definitely would have used a lifeline as well to like not seem as conspicuous. So I guess it makes sense.
Because yeah, I definitely would have. If I didn't use that, I would have locked in Nickit for sure over Thievul. So it's a good call on my part. At least use one. At least use one.
All right, well, next up, we've got Toronto Regionals this weekend. It's going to be a pretty big one. It's looking like we're going to have 9 rounds of Swiss Day 1, which is the first time we've had a 9-round Day 1 tournament since Baltimore at the start of the season.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
the main
been
reason,
quite a while.
Yeah, I say the main reason for that has been caps. I feel like more so than anything. Like Knoxville definitely would have had 9 rounds Day 1 if there wasn't a cap. So caps have been the reason for most of these.
Louisville. Is that what you mean, Louisville?
Or Louisville, yeah. So caps have been the reason for some of these for sure, if not most of them. But yeah, we are going to finally see another 9-round tournament. And I imagine, well, San Antonio has hit its cap, which is weird because San Antonio's cap is smaller than Toronto's, which, I mean, East Coast regionals are usually some of the biggest, but I feel like Texas is usually pretty big too.
Yeah.
I did see a tweet from the organizer that they're trying to get more seats for San Antonio, or there will be, but they don't know how many or when it's going to happen or something like that. So if you weren't able to register for San Antonio, go follow Gaming Gen on Twitter. Go check their tweet out.
Yeah.
But that is actually surprising me now that I'm looking at these numbers right here because it is 2805 currently registered for Toronto. So we will hit that 9 rounds Day 1 for sure.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. How does that change? How big is Day 2 going to be with X21 getting in, 2,800 players? I think that is that's going to be the largest regional championships of all time. What's the number right now? I'm actually going to look.
2805? I don't think it will be, will it?
No, the largest. Let me see. I got to make it. Looking just at the tournaments that have happened in the last year, 2,600 was NAIC. The largest regionals was Orlando at 2,300. So
it'll be close.
It's going to be pretty close. There's a chance this is the literal largest regional championships we have ever had.
Yeah, I already could get there actually. And it being Toronto, Canadian regional, is actually a little bit of a surprise to be honest. But once again, I think it just comes down to cap space for most of these. Like Louisville could have maybe surpassed and been the largest regional.
I mean, we see Baltimore. I'm just looking here at Limitless. I'll pull it up here so everyone can see. If we exclude the massive Japanese tournaments and look at just specifically regional championships, not looking at ICs. I mean, Orlando in April was 2369.
Yeah.
In May, Indianapolis was 2342, and then Baltimore to start off the season was 2300, 2307.
Yeah, so
Louisville obviously was capped. So
yeah, I don't even think there was ever really a question of if we would have the biggest tournament this year. It would just be how big it is, and I think coming down to caps is kind of like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because Toronto, I think Toronto's capped. I'm actually not sure about Toronto being capped. Toronto might not be capped yet, actually, though.
I can see if I can register real quick.
But yeah, San Antonio has hit its cap because I saw that tweet from the organizer, but they're trying to find more seats. It sounds like. So we'll have that 9 rounds Day 1, which I see so many people talking on Twitter about like 8 round. Most of the tournaments unable to. It is
and it is sold out.
Yeah, just so people understand, most of these major tournaments that we're having this season can probably get 9 rounds Day 1 easy. 8 rounds is not going to be the norm moving forward if you live in America or Europe, probably. So just like, I feel like when I see people talk about on Twitter about like how 8 rounds feels good, or the idea of like X21 making Day 2, or how many rounds you have to get to make Day 2, whatever it might be, just so people understand, 8 rounds is not going to be the norm for very long. I assume they want the game to grow and have bigger events, so we're going to have bigger venues moving forward into next season. I was assuming that most of the tournaments this year would be 9-round tournaments, and maybe the rest of the year, most of them could be, to be honest. But yeah, be prepared to be going to 9-round tournaments. Be prepared as if you're going to register for a regional if you're in America or Europe, especially the bigger ones in Europe, or at least the big ones in Europe. Be prepared for 9 rounds Day 1. That will be the norm eventually, for sure.
So as people are preparing for this tournament, I saw this tweet and I thought we might talk about this kind of sentiment a little bit. This is from Chris Franco, who says, "This is without a doubt one of the hardest Pokemon formats to navigate in a while. The sheer diversity of decks paired with the different playstyles of each deck make it so you're guaranteed to have multiple unfavored matchups regardless of what you decide to play. Not excited." So players, I mean, you've not been preparing for Toronto. You're not planning to play, but you're playing in San Antonio, which is going to be the same format. I don't know. What do you kind of think about the current format and like as many different formats as you've prepared for over the years. You know, you've certainly had ones where there's like, okay, there's a big 3 decks. I need to. It's pretty straightforward what I think I want to play. And then there's also been formats where there's a dozen viable decks, and you have to figure out how to navigate those. What do you kind of think about this thought process here?
I mean, I don't think there's as many good decks as Chris seems to think there is, for sure. Like stuff like Lost Box and Miraidon technically exists around like 3 or 4%, or maybe even less, but they're not actual decks you need to prepare for. And I don't think it's that much different than many of the formats we've had over the last like year and a half. They've been more wider formats, right? Like the World Championships was maybe the most narrow format we've had in a while, 24% Drago or whatever. But besides like the World Championships, like the metas have been pretty wide. I guess NAIC was pretty narrow as well, but I don't know, this doesn't seem like anything crazy. And I feel like actually this kind of all started when Lost Zone stuff came out. I feel like Lost Zone decks in general really widened up the meta, and since then the meta's been pretty wide for a while, and this doesn't feel that much different. I think we're kind of in like an initial extra wide period, best because it's the beginning of the format, and like Lost Box, Miraidon, and now this Cloth Terrapagos deck really just kind of jumped in as quote-unquote meta decks, but we see Miraidon and Lost Box are basically already phased out of the meta based on what ended up being truly the best decks in the format. So I think the biggest thing is that people just overthink their deck choice, and you just need to pick a deck and learn its matchups. And it's like it's not really that complicated. There's so many. There is a lot of good decks right now, but yeah, just pick a good deck and then get good at a good deck. It's this meta, this format is not that much different from last format. Not too big of a difference in terms of how many decks are good and what decks are good. It just feels that way because it's at the beginning of the format, and there is a little bit new introduced, which is a good thing. We want things to shake up a little bit with a new major set being released.
Let's talk about some of those decks now. Kicking off, let's talk about Regidrago. Is it still the top dog of the format? It's been the BDIF, but things have been shaking up the last few weeks. There's definitely a few more decks out there that maybe Regidrago could have a harder time with. But is it still the BDIF? What do you think, Azul?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and one of the biggest things for that, I think Regidrago, in this recent Cloth Terrapagos shakeup, which I think that's what we could definitely call it, right? I think that's what's caused the biggest shakeup in the meta. It's only helped Regidrago because, I don't know, Charizard has also seemed to make a little bit of a resurgence as well, but Raging Bolt just seems like it's in a really bad spot between Charizard and Cloth Terrapagos becoming more popular decks. Namely Cloth Terrapagos. I guess Charizard is just, it felt like it was going away a little bit, but now it's kind of coming back a little bit, but it's just kind of bouncing between like 8 and 10%. I think things are only getting better for Drago. Like, overall, things just seem to be getting better for Drago. So, yeah, I think Drago, still the best deck in the format, has the widest matchup spread, and some of its worst matchups are becoming less relevant, like Raging Bolt. Although I will say, my experience with Drago against Cloth Terrapagos is not a ton, but I do think the matchup is pretty close, maybe giving Cloth Terrapagos the slight edge.
So Cloth is a real deck. You know, we've established that, but how real is it? I mean, are we talking about this deck being like the third most popular deck in the room in Toronto this weekend?
It's weird. I think like the first thing to ask is it just one of those decks that it will be really hard for it to become popular? Because I feel like Golden Go has that problem where, and we just saw we've been seeing Golden Go do pretty well overall, but it's like really slow. Its meta percentage is getting more popular, but it's like a really slow ramp up. And then now with this last week of like Golden Go like taking a back seat and no more real hype, like the hype dying off, it's like is Golden Go going to start to recede from its like built up 5% meta share at Stuttgart? Maybe. But yeah, I think Cloth definitely had more hype behind it. More people like the deck. The deck's really cool. It's really fun. It showed out again at Perth with 2 top 8s. Not sure how it did at Bogota overall. So it's definitely real. And I kind of slot in there like right under Charizard, I feel like. It's going to be Drago, Charizard. I'm predicting Raging Bolt to fall down to like 5% of the meta. There's no reason to play it. I think the deck's pretty bad right now. I think there's no reason to play it. People like winning more than they like playing their comfort deck, I think. Like, on average. And you're not winning very much with Raging Bolt right now.
That would be crazy to see Raging Bolt fall to 5. I think falling off makes sense, like down to 7 or something like that, but cutting in half effectively from the last tournament we've got a lot of data from would be wild.
Well, for Perth, what was its day 2?
We don't have that. Oh, in day 2, Raging Bolt?
Oh my gosh, where is it?
There was 1.
1? Oh my. It's good. It's done, bro. It might be less than 5. Holy. The thing is, though, like, bad conversion rates is something that Raging Bolt is used to.
It is definitely still going to be 7. It will fall. I could see it falling from 10.
I'm going to predict sub 5.
Sub 5
Sub
Raging Bolt?
5%,
That's just
yeah.
not going to happen.
I mean, it's going to be a lot of... The more there is, the more free wins there is for everyone else. So, like, I don't think anyone's complaining that Raging Bolt's going to be, like, more popular. Like,
Yeah.
it's tough right now for the deck, for sure. I was going to go off something else with that. What we brought up... We're talking about Cloth, though, right? Drago? Cloth?
Yeah,
Drago?
we're talking about Cloth right now.
Yeah.
How popular it'll be in the event.
Yeah, so I think that's what Cloth... I think Cloth does slot in right there under Charizard then. I think it'll maybe be the third most popular. If Raging Bolt does hang on, maybe it'll be like Raging Bolt at 8%, Cloth at 7 or something. Although I'm predicting like a drop-off for
I don't
Raging
think it's going
Bolt.
to jump up quite that high, but I think it is going to be 4th or 5th. Like, I mean, I think it's like a 7% deck.
Yeah, I feel that's how I feel about it
I guess
as well.
it is possible that 7% could be 3rd on the graph.
Yeah, I think that because like what else would beat it out? Maybe Guardy starts to make a little bit more of a comeback. I think people are getting more faith in Guardy. With seeing the success, kind of it's been being more and more successful. It feels like tournament after tournament.
It is probably Drago, Zard, Bolt. And I could see Miraidon still being up there. It probably will be down to like 5 or something like that.
Yeah, I think Miraidon's
Maybe it'll be like
fall
the 5th or 6th spot. I mean, when I say 5, I meant the 5th spot.
Yeah. But it's definitely in the mix. I think it's in the top 6 for sure. Cloth Terrapagos will be, definitely. And I could see Golden Go actually getting in there as well at like a 6% at the like 6th place or something. It could maybe squeak in there, but I feel like Golden Go is just one of those decks where it's really hard for it to gain. It's also just like, I mean, Golden Go is like not that fun of a deck to play. Like, I would even say Raging Ball is more fun to play than Golden Go. So
Golden Go is pretty incredibly linear, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Playing it with Togekiss, though, like that initial switch up was enjoyable, but you can only play so many games with Golden Go Togekiss before you're like, all right.
Playing it with Togekiss is kind of like a drug. It's like I gotta flip my heads, like
Addicted to the flips.
addicted to the flips. So we talked a lot about Charizard. You seem to think it's going to be a pretty good play, and I think like it tracks with like what's happening in the meta that like people would trend towards Charizard. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I think Charizard's okay because Drago is still going to be, if not the most popular deck, right there 1 and 2 with Charizard. Probably.
It feels like that's just the only problem though with Charizard. Like everything else, you look at the rest of the decks, it's like yeah, Charizard's fine against all this stuff. There's just not a solid answer to the Drago. Is that it?
Yeah, so I think Charizard is fine. Like because you're unfavored against Drago, the most good players play Drago. It's a bad matchup. Charizard's fine just because of that. It is only going to be like it's like not a bad thing to take a bad matchup to a 10% meta deck like Drago, but you can go a little bit deeper than that and be like, what is the expected success rate from Drago? And it's maybe the highest in the room, right? There were still 4 in top 8 or in asymmetrical cut of Perth, right? So it's Stuttgart. It did kind of fall off for one tournament, but came right back next weekend with Perth, and I expect it to be pretty successful at Toronto as well. So I'm not a huge fan of Charizard. It's fine. I would play it before I played Raging Bolt, that's for sure.
So obviously one of the big things from the weekend is the fact that Gardevoir won in Perth. There was also another one in Top Cut at Perth. I mean, is it just good? Is this something that we should expect to see more of this weekend?
I don't know. It is definitely interesting. I mean, Kaito was playing the, or Kaito, is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Kaito.
Kaito was playing the Manaphy in there, so has that a little bit extra against the Kyurem, of course. And I mean, maybe it definitely is unfavored against the Regidrago, but having the Manaphy, that does make like a pretty big difference, I think, for sure, to like have that around. And not everyone's playing Jamming Tower, which is nice. Less of that, and is running, the double stadiums, the Artisans, to potentially keep up with the Jamming Towers for like the slower Guardy build. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's so many ways to play Guardy, and we do see it continuing to have success tournament after tournament after tournament. The Drago is kind of the biggest hang-up overall, but you're really good against all of these aggressive decks. The Miraidons, the Regibolts, the Cloth Terrapagoses, you're fine against like the Thorn decks as well. Like you have a pretty wide matchup spread as Guardy. The Drago matchup is just unfavorable, but it doesn't feel like overwhelmingly unfavorable, like a 40-60 maybe unfavored for Guardy, maybe a little bit more if you have the Manaphy. Without Manaphy, it's pretty bad because they just Kyurem you, right? Whenever they want. But if you can kind of like take that away from them and get off an early unfair stamp after they take their first knockout and make them really have to struggle to like make them work a lot more for their KOs because of the Manaphy, because of the early unfair stamp, the matchup might be honestly like okay.
So what are you
with,
doing
like, this
this weekend if you're playing Gardevoir? Are you going unfair stamp? Are you going secret box?
I think I would just, if I had to pick guard forward with like my experience with the deck right now, like I've been hyping up the trolley build and the turbo build.
Or that is
Specifically,
another option, right? There's also the call bell
Yeah.
deck, right?
I've been saying just like play the turbo builds. But Kaido is also one of the best players in the game, so I think I would off of this result specifically from Kaido, and that's what I do when I haven't committed enough time to a deck. It's just like is there a player out there that I respect that has recently performed with a deck? And it's like if the answer is yes, I just kind of take their result as word. So I would just rock with Kaido 60 to be honest. I think.
I mean, it's kind of like people saying they, trust in Tord, right? Whenever they're picking a deck for a tournament, it's like, yeah, play Tord's last tournament 60. It can't be that bad of a play, right?
My thing is always, if you have time to do your due diligence, you
Yes.
should. But if you don't, there's no shame in just like being like, well, this is Tord's. I'm going to play this deck, and Tord played a 60 recently. I'll just copy paste it, right? So it's tough because the more aggressive builds have felt a little bit better into the Drago matchup. But they are like a little bit, I guess I would say, worse overall against everything that's not Drago. Like you'd rather play slow Guardia against literally any deck that's not Drago, but you want to play the faster Guardia decks against Drago, it feels like. That's like your trade-off overall.
So what happened to Golden Go this past weekend? Because we were pretty hype on it. It seems like it was decent. I guess you talked about this a little bit. Like, it just is the sentiment just it's like not the most fun deck to play, and so people aren't choosing to roll up with it even though it's had decent success, or will we see a little bit of a resurgence from it in Toronto? I mean, I guess it did just have the solid finishes in Stuttgart, so it's like not been that far removed from it doing well, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like Drago had an off weekend in Stuttgart, right? And like in Stuttgart, there were 2 Golden Go in top 8, right? So maybe a little bit of a trade-off there. There's only this is what I've been saying recently as well. There's only so many decks that can make top cut. If it's 10-person asymmetrical, there's only 10 decks that can get there.
Yeah.
A couple of them are going to be duplicates. It's not going to be one of each of the top decks that make their way there. I don't see any reason to really worry about Golden Go besides maybe the Cloth Terapagos matchup. That's a matchup I don't have a ton of experience with. I would assume with the potential of Togekiss, the matchup is
I feel like you
fine.
have to play Togekiss if you're playing
Golden
Go. Like, I know Owen had the good finish with the Palkia build.
Yep.
And the Palkia build's fine, but it's like so much power of the deck, I think, comes from the potential of Togekiss.
Yeah, I think I agree for the most part as well. I think playing Togekiss is correct. And especially for the Cloth matchup, because there's really not 2 things you can even get 2 prize cards off of with the Greninja play anyways. So I think the biggest question for me is just, is the Cloth matchup just terrible? And if it is, Golden Go seems not great right now then. Because honestly, the Charizard matchup seems pretty bad for Golden Go. Mainly the plays they can just make with Briar are just kind of insane. Also, your Togepi having 50 HP sucks, because Dusclops just gets in there for the knockout. So that's another tough one I feel like is actually the Charizard matchup is not great for Golden Go. But so the question for me then is just like I think actually Charizard is like if we're like I was just mentioning, like taking a bad matchup to a 10% deck. Charizard, I wouldn't mind taking a bad Charizard matchup. Having a bad Drago matchup is a different thing completely. Because if Drago's beating up on Charizard, as long as you can dodge the Charizards, you don't have to beat them at the end of the day because they won't be there. But taking a bad matchup to Cloth and Charizard, maybe number 2 and number 3, that's too much for Golden Go. So Golden Go is maybe on the back burner because of that. But that's like a matchup I don't have a ton of experience in. So I don't know if I can keep up or not. The early, has to be super annoying. The early Pecharunt, just KOing your Gimme Ghouls.
And what decks would you say are being the most slept on right now heading into Toronto?
I think one of the ones actually that they will, I think Quad Thorns. I think Dragapult Thorns is out there. I think some people kind of just disregard it once they take a look at it. And I think that's probably, incorrect. I think the deck's pretty good. But I think Quad Thorns is always slept on though. Like when it is decent. Like even if it has with like 2 of them made top 8 at Gdansk or something. And I don't think anyone thought about Quad Thorns twice. Or maybe it wasn't Gdansk. Which one was it? Might have been Lille. Dude, I can't even find it now. Is it further back?
Quad Thorns.
Dortmund? It was, there's one in top 8 of Dortmund. I thought there was one.
Did you imagine this tournament that
Maybe.
there were multiple Thorns? There was 2 in top 8 at the Singapore Premier Ball League.
It wasn't that. Maybe I did imagine this tournament.
Or it was like just last year sometime. Yeah, you're tripping, bro.
I might be tripping.
It was
One made top 8 at Lille, but I thought there was one where 2 of them made.
there were
Oh no,
two
not
in
Lille,
top 8 of
Dortmund.
Worlds in juniors.
Good to know. That's the one I was concerned with too. Did I swear? Oh, Gdansk. It was Gdansk. Yeah, there's 2 right here. I misclicked on the tournament. Yeah, so like I think after Gdansk, 2 of them were in top 8, and nobody thought twice about Thorns.
Oh, sure.
Not only was there a Thorns in top 4 of Perth, but also Daichi chose to play it. Daichi was there as well in Perth, got top 16. But I don't think anyone's going to think twice about Thorns going into Toronto, right? No one's even thinking about the deck. It is a very low percentage meta deck, but I feel like Thorns, that would be like my deck to like put into that category of like, this deck is better than people give it credit for. And it is fine to disregard these low percentage meta decks, but I think that gives an opportunity to actually play the deck and do well with it. So I think Thorns is in a pretty good spot right now.
The deck that I think is kind of being slept on right now, pun intended, is Snorlax, to be honest.
Stalling out here.
Snorlax, I think, is going to have a tough Drago matchup, but like some of your other stuff, like, I mean, the Lugia matchup was always basically unwinnable, right? You don't have to really worry about that anymore. And you look at the way some of these decks are being built, like, some of these decks just literally lose to a Snorlax in the active spot.
Yeah, I mean, your Zard matchup has always been great. The Drago matchup is I don't know if it's better or worse now, because like people aren't playing like the Mist Energy Cape anymore, it feels like, which is like really good against them.
Yeah.
But they're not playing Noctowl, so they can't easily find Cologne and Jamming Tower like turn 2 to like mess with you. I will say the Cloth matchup is an auto loss though for Stall, because they have the Petron EX. So
Right, sure.
that would be like that would be tough. I think if you're feeling confident in your Drago matchup as Stall, then I would say Stall does sound pretty good right now. Because if you're taking out number 1 and number 2, even if you auto lose to number 3, I think you're okay with that.
Yeah. And there's just so many different decks in the format right now too. Like, I mean, something like the Miraidon decks that were dominating just a few weekends ago, right? Like, there's a gajillion things that you can just lock up. They're not playing a switch card in their deck anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to be able to eventually probably lock something up. Yeah, like you said, Charizard is probably going to be pretty popular, and Snorlax has a pretty good matchup there. I think the Dragapult matchups are usually pretty tough for Stall, so maybe that could be an issue, right?
No, I think you usually have the edge against most of them.
I don't know. I remember Caleb and I tested it before NAIC, and that was just straight Dragapult.
Like
and it was
what?
like against Thorns
Against Stall?
No, yeah, against Stall. Yeah, the handheld fans. Okay, I'm mixing up our testing, to be honest, a little bit. We were testing Dragapult versus Thorns, and Dragapult was just destroying the Thorns. Yeah. But then the Snorlax, the handheld fans do put in a lot of work in that matchup. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one seemed like fine overall. Yeah, I think Stall's maybe a decent shot as well. It just depends how confident you are in your Drago matchup. Okay. I think that's what it comes down to. That's something I don't have time. Also, and I guess maybe that comes down to like if are people playing the egg, because the egg is.
Let's go.
Is annoying if you're playing Mimikyus and stuff like that. And it allows them to play through a single Drago, which is annoying. You don't get to like push up your Ogre Pawn and be like, now you have to move your Drago to something else. They're just like, all right, I'll just flip with my egg. I hope I get heads. Or even if you have anything on your bench, they're fine with getting tails as well.
Play the egg if you're playing Drago. That's my advice.
I don't know about that. The egg is okay.
The executioner, baby. Get him in there.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, let's make some predictions for this weekend. Azul in Toronto, in their home country. How many Canadians will there be in Top Cut? Obviously, it'll be the most represented region, but there will be a ton of players from the United States there.
Yeah.
And, the way these tournaments have been going, there will be tons of players from all over the world, most likely, at this tournament. I know a lot of Europeans actually usually end up coming over to Toronto.
Yeah.
What do you think? How many Canadians will there be in Top Cut? Not just Top 8, Top Cut.
Yeah, I almost want to run I wonder how many players will get in Top Cut here. I was going to run a simulator on Limitless real fast, but my guess is probably...
how many players are we thinking?
24.
2,400.
Yeah, and then 15.
0.15 tie rate. An official tournament, 2-day structure.
And then, okay, so this is a new thing Robin added. I put 0.5. I did the math for Sacramento.
What does ID rate mean?
Louis the second.
Fraction of players that intentionally drawn today 2 at an X2 score. So half of them?
Well, so no. I did the math, and it was like 2/3 of people who were 5 and 2 ended with a tie. But I think some of them were natural, for sure. So I went with 0.5.
Probably
instead
not
of
as many as you
0.6.
would think.
There were some pretty good players in there who I don't think would choose the ID. So I think there was some for sure. So I put 0.5, but 0.6.
Let's go 0.6.
All right, and then calculate it.
So looking at cumulative players here, we're going to see 9 players in cut at 32 match points being the cutoff.
Which is that... Dude, I'm tripping my math. How many rounds are we going to have? 14 total?
So that's a record of 10-02, 10-2-2 gets into cut. Wait, that's not the right number of rounds, is it? No.
Oh, 13 rounds of Swiss.
13 rounds of Swiss. So 10-1-2 getting in.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10-1-2, 13 rounds
so
of
the
Swiss.
ties seem like they're going to be valuable for this tournament.
No
but
gentlemen's.
There is a potential, if things go wonky in that last round, 20-person, 31-point cut. Hey, that'd be pretty sick. 9.3 means it's likely to be around that, but there's been some crazy stuff recently. Like we talked about the numbers that Benji Pham put out after Stuttgart, and there could have been like an 18-person top cut or something. So
I think it was 26 or something, wasn't it? I thought it was something
Oh,
ridiculous.
it was crazy. Yeah, when that last round actually happens, it definitely gets interesting sometimes, for sure. So I'll say, dude, it could be, I'm just going to assume it's going to be around a 9-person, 10-person cut, and I'm going to say Canada's going to struggle on this one. I'll give them 3.
What?
I'll give them 3 players in cut.
3 players in cut? Dude, that is disrespectful. Do you know how many of our tournaments they have come and won?
A couple.
Quite a few.
I will say, but I think I did the math for last Toronto or last Vancouver. Like 50% of the players are like Americans, or close to, I think.
Sure.
So, and we have some Europeans over there. Even you brought it up with like the players who went to Perth who were from Japan. It's the best players coming over. It's going to be some of the best players from Europe coming over.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's look at. I'm actually going to look at the last Toronto Regional Championships.
Oh wait, hold up. Maybe let me hold mine back if you're going to do more research.
Well, no, you already locked it in, big dog.
Oh yeah, I'll keep it locked. I'll keep that locked.
Oh my gosh.
Look at the last Toronto, bro.
What is this? 1 Canadian, Christian got 9th. There wasn't even asymmetrical, right?
Yeah, there wasn't. Honestly, y'all could stay home, to be honest. There's no point in showing up. Christian can come to get a top 16, I guess. Sheesh. My goodness. All right, Chip, now how you feeling?
I'm feeling like I was going to say 5.
That is not...
This is crazy to look at right here.
Sheesh.
That's rough. Let's look at what's like
Vancouver. Look at the last Vancouver one.
Well, no, because like it's just a different side of the country. Like I was gonna look at like Baltimore or something. Like, see, there was like 3 Canadians in top cut of Baltimore.
That's a pretty good conversion.
Yeah.
I think it's just actually look at the last the Toronto before that. I'm just
look at Louisville. Yeah, see, there was
2
like
Canadian?
2. I'm gonna
maybe they just choke. Maybe they're nervous when it's on like home turf. They just get nervous.
They performance anxiety or something. I'm gonna go with 5. I'm gonna say 5 Canadians in cut, and it's gonna be a 10-player cut. 10-player cut.
Yeah, 9 to 10 is a good guess. It sounds like.
How many precious trolley will there be in top cut? This has been your favorite A-spec the last few weeks. I feel like this is like the only A-spec you've been talking about.
I mean, I think it wouldn't be surprising to see multiple Cloth Terrapagos. I want to root for the Dragapult Iron Thorns as well. I like the deck, and it's getting a little bit of steam. So I'm going to at least say 2. I have a hard time seeing the Guardy players, especially after this performance here from Kaido and Haruki. I struggle to see a lot of the Guardy players going to that trolley build that we saw in Stuttgart get top 4. So I'm going to go with we could see a couple Dragapult Thorns. We could see a couple Cloth. Maybe something new will pop up. I'm going to give them 3. I'm going to go with 3 trolleys.
3 trolleys, all right.
Asymmetrical.
I mean, there could be some Zards running it as well. I'm going to go with 2. I think that's a good wavelength to be on. A couple Cloths in there. Maybe 1 Cloth, 1 of the Thorns decks. Something like that. And then lastly, we talked about this deck a lot. The Golden Go. Highest placing Golden Go at the event, Azul. What do you think it will be?
I mean, this is tough, especially after its kind of recent downfall. The Cloth Terrapagos deck is out there, which it seems like might be part of the reason that it's struggling. Although, like I said, my experience with the matchup isn't enough to really make a confident call on that matchup. I would like to say a top cut for Golden Go again, but I think I'm going to go with a top 32. I think my main reason for that, I think Guardy's going to become more popular and be decently successful, and that is a tough one for the the Golden
I
Go.
actually think it's going to be rough out there for Golden Go a couple weekends in a row. I'm going to go with top 64 for the Golden Go. I think it's going to struggle big time here.
Golden Go hanging out with the Canadians.
More
down there.
Charizards, more Dragapults, or not Dragapults, Dragapult Thorns and stuff like that. The Charizards,
Well, that matchup it can keep up with. You got the Clefty, you got the Flutter to like shut off there. So you can get through the Thorns, and then the Monkey Dories take over for like the spread damage. So that matchup isn't terrible.
I'm talking about Golden Go versus.
Yeah, you're cooking.
What are you on, big
That's
dog?
fair. That's fair.
It's getting late for old Azul over here.
That's fair for Golden Go. I thought we were talking about Guardy.
All right. Well, there we go. Those are our predictions. That is Toronto coming up this weekend. I will be there. Azul will not. So hope to meet some of you guys up in Toronto, Canada this weekend.
Up north.
You guys will be able to meet Azul in San Antonio.
I will be in Antonio, yeah.
I guess. All right. Well, cool. Azul, you got any other thoughts for the people before we get into our bonus episode?
Nope. Send us out.
Thanks so much to everyone for listening. As always, we do appreciate the support. It means a lot. Helps us out a ton if you guys wouldn't mind showing that extra support by subscribing, liking, following, commenting. All those things really do make a big difference. I did notice over on Spotify, the comments are up a lot over the last couple of episodes now that we've been uploading the video version. So maybe it won't matter as much for this one since there's not actually like video of us. It's just some potato chips and a blue sky. But you know what? We'll get it figured out. And if you want to stay up to date with us... Oh, we didn't talk about this in the beginning. We should have talked about it at the beginning, how we're uploading to the Highlights channel as well.
Oh, yeah.
We've had the Highlights channel. We haven't been using it. We got someone who's going to be posting clips and stuff for us over there. So be sure to check out our Highlights channel. If you don't have time to listen to the full podcast every single week, you just want to hear the snippets and topics that pertain the most to you. And be sure to check out the second channel as well. Should have a new video coming out next week. We did just post a new Evolution series, so you want to check that out as well. And appreciate the continued support as always. And if you want to stay up to date with us, I just lost my train of thought on the rhythm of how we do this thing. If you want to stay up to date with us, the best place to do it is over on X. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG, and you can follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yep, appreciate the support as always. Good luck to everyone going to Toronto, except for the Canadians. Rooting for everyone else. Got to get that number 3. Well, a couple Canadians. Just a few. Not too many. And then we'll catch y'all next Wednesday, 7 a.m. Eastern.